Thank you for joining us. You are a part of a powerful group who recognizes that Black women's health should be at the forefront of the national conversation. We are mothers, daughters, activists, entrepreneurs, entertainers, corporate warriors, and more, who help boost the economy and often drive the national conversation. For almost 40 years, the Black Women's Health Imperative has strived to amplify our voices, help enact policy that protects us, research our issues, create programs that enhance our lives, and produce events like this one to ensure we keep the conversation going about the issues that matter to us most. So, let's get started with our program.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Dish Diva. I'm Erin Taylor, your Dish Diva, and I am so happy that you guys are joining me today. I am joined by my sidekick this afternoon, Tiffany Phillips from the Wellness Coalition. She is not going to be seen, but you will definitely hear her. So how are you doing today, Tiffany?
Hi, Erin. I am doing well. Super excited to be here. But Erin, I have to be honest, right? I am from the Deep South.
Yes.
And where I'm from, when we think big game, we do not think plant-based. And so I am here to learn and get my husband on board because he is like, bring me all the meat,
Yes.
all the pizza, all the wings. But I am excited and with an open mind. So I look forward to it.
Okay. Well, I will help try to convince you and your husband. But we will see you today. So like Tiffany said, we're focusing on plant-based snacks and appetizers that will help you, celebrate the big game. And these are things that you can use beyond, of course, the big game. And, it'll give you some of the same flavors that you expect from those meat-based products, but we're actually going to use the plant-based products. And the reason being is that when we're looking to get, prevent chronic diseases and get better health, the plants are where the nutrients are at. I mean, point blank, the plants is where you're going to get a lot of your nutrients. So it's really important to kind of focus on those, and then we can add in some meat. And I'll show you some examples of that as we go on here. So the first thing that we're going to make today is some cauliflower wings. Now, I don't want you to get it thinking that, the cauliflower is going to taste like chicken. It's not. And I think that's one thing that we have to kind of get our mind wrapped around is that when we're doing these plant-based recipes, they're not going to taste like the real thing, but they're still going to give you some of those flavors. And it's something that you can use to complement the real meat, right? So we're going to start off with our cauliflower wings. All right. Have you ever had cauliflower wings before, Tiffany?
Erin, I have not.
Okay.
Cauliflower, I don't know. It seems like it has that, it gets soft, right?
Yes.
It's, so when I think of, like, I've seen it, but when I think of cauliflower, I'm like, how in the world is this going to be a wing?
Well, it's not. It's not going to be wing. Like I said, get that out of your head because we're not creating wings. We're just creating some of the same flavors we would get.
Flavors, gotcha.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
Yes, that's an important thing to remember, right?
Right.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a little bit of a batter for the cauliflower. And what I have in here is some flour. There's some salt and pepper. There's some paprika in there. And we are going to combine that with a little bit of water, some garlic powder as well. We're going to combine that with a little bit of water and just make kind of a wet batter. Now, one thing that you can do too, I'm not going to do that today with this demonstration, but you can also put these in a little bit of breadcrumbs, the cauliflower and a little bit of breadcrumbs, and it gives you a little bit of an extra bite. But with all of these seasonings that are in here, you're going to get a little bit more flavor out of the cauliflower because the cauliflower doesn't really have a whole lot of flavor, right? So what we're doing here is got the batter all mixed up here, and we're going to dump our cauliflower in there. So when we're cutting the cauliflower, you just want to make sure that they're still of a decent size. So really just think, the size of a wing or maybe just a slightly smaller, but you don't want to have a lot of little tiny pieces in there. Otherwise, it's just going to be impossible to eat like a wing. So we're just kind of dump this in here.
Now, Erin, will it get crispy in the oven? Will
Yeah,
that flour kind of make it a little bit crispy?
yeah, that's the point of the flour, is to just kind of get it to bake and kind of crisp a little bit. And that's why I said you can also add in a little bit of the breadcrumbs, because the breadcrumbs will add an extra punch or an extra crunch to it. So we're just going to make sure that we've got the batter just kind of covered on all of the cauliflower here. And then we're going to just place it onto a cooking sheet here. Now it's important to just kind of space them out too, because you want to make sure that they're not touching, and because that batter will make you have, you know, some double cauliflower wings here.
And if they're touching, they will probably steam or so too.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's one of the big things when you're roasting vegetables and stuff like that. You want to roast them and you want to kind of caramelize like the sugars that are in there without steaming them, because the steaming will just kind of cook them and make them soft without getting that roasted texture to them.
So, Erin, what are some benefits of cauliflower?
Yeah, that's a good question, because like I said, we're trying to get more of our nutrients, right? So, you know, you and I did a snack and chat actually just recently talking about the benefits of cauliflower and broccoli. And we were both surprised at how much vitamin C was in there. And I think that's a really important thing to remember, because most people think when they think of vitamin C, they think of oranges, right?
Exactly.
And so what we're doing here is we're just providing some more nutrients without having to have oranges all the time, right? We're having some vitamin C. There's also some potassium in there. And cauliflower is also really high in choline, which is something that helps promote, it's a nutrient that helps promote brain health and helps with metabolism. So we want to make sure our metabolisms are working well, right? So that if our goal is to lose weight, we want to make sure that metabolism is high. Right. So what I'm doing is I'm going to put these into the oven. They're going to bake for about 20 minutes on 450. I'm going to set the timer here.
And so, Erin, I have to say, I kind of cringed a little bit, because I am like the queen of, I don't want to have to clean up all this stuff when I am done. So is it possible to put a little parchment paper down, or a little aluminum foil or something? So it's like I can just put this thing back under the sink.
Absolutely. And actually what I use is a silicone. It's like a silicone I don't know, pad or whatever, and a liner, so that all I have to do is clean up that, and then the actual baking sheet doesn't get dirty at all.
Oh, yes, so you had something on that?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yep. That's awesome.
It's just, for me, I'm an environmentalist, so for the parchment paper, I just hate having to waste the paper all the time.
Me too. So that's a good, tell me what that is again.
It's a silicone.
Okay.
A silicone liner for your baking sheet or cookie sheet.
Okay, that's awesome. And I also want to say hi to Allison and Stephanie. Allison is joining us from Maryland, and Stephanie is joining us from Florida.
All right. Hi, guys.
So if you have joined us late, let us know where you're tuning in from in the comments.
Yes, absolutely. Because I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and it's actually surprisingly warmer today. It's about close to 50 degrees, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah. So a quick question for you, Erin, we have coming in. Can the silicone liner go in the dishwasher?
I believe it can. It doesn't always get very clean in the dishwasher. It depends on your dishwasher and how well it cleans. Sometimes, depending on what I'm cooking on the liner, I have to make sure I'm like kind of giving a little bit of scrub, or at least soaking it in the dishwasher. I mean, in the dishwater. And that'll help kind of get some of the stuff off of it.
Gotcha.
But I do love them. I love them. I prefer them over anything else.
And Shell said silicone baking mat.
Thank you.
Is that what okay.
Thank
It's
you.
like liner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shell. And she's tuning in from Missouri.
Hi, Michelle. Okay, so while the cauliflower is in the oven, we're going to kind of move on to the mushroom sloppy joes. So if you guys are big fans of sloppy joes, we're just using the mushrooms to kind of replace the meat in there. So one thing I'm going to do, and mushrooms are really good for replacing meat because they kind of have a similar texture. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put some of the whole mushrooms into a food processor. And we're also going to put some walnuts in there as well. So this is going to kind of create the meat of the sloppy joe. Now, for me, I like to have a little bit more substance when it comes to the mushrooms. So a lot of the recipes you'll find they'll have you kind of pulse it until it's like really fine. But you can see I've got like some pretty good sized chunks here, because what happens with mushrooms is when you cook them, they actually start to shrink down a little bit. So I'm going to put this in the, so I have some whole ones in here, and they're going to get chopped up pretty finely with those walnuts. And then we'll have some of the bigger pieces here. So just give me 1 second. There we go. I swear this food processor is one of my favorite things in the kitchen, is it makes it so much easier to chop. So you can see here that we've got.
Erin, what type of mushrooms are those?
They're criminy or
Okay.
baby bellas.
Okay.
But you can pretty much use any that you want. So this is a really fine, so it almost looks like ground meat. So it's really finely chopped. And we are going to set this aside here because we are going to add this. We're going to saute some onions and green peppers first. So again, we're looking to have a little bit of a bite when we're eating this. We don't want it to be completely mushy, right?
Right.
And I think that would be a really big turnoff for anybody who is trying to do some plant-based stuff but really loves meat. So I'm just going to spray a little bit of oil in there. And we're going to heat this over medium-high heat. We're going to add our bell peppers and our onions in there, and then we'll saute some garlic as well. And that's going to give us like a little bit more flavor. And you'll notice like a lot of recipes will start with onion and garlic. And for me, if a recipe calls for like 2 garlic cloves, that means 5. So I really like my garlic. Oops, there we go. So, and garlic is really good because it's actually one of the things that helps feed the good bacteria in our stomach. So it helps with a good biome in there, good healthy biome, which, if we have a lot of good bacteria going on in our stomachs, then that means in our intestines, that means that it's going to keep all the bad bacteria at bay, all the fungus, the viruses, the bacteria that are going to make us sick.
Right. So it sounds like you're saying, although your breath may smell a little bad, the benefit, is that what I'm hearing you saying? The benefits far outweigh.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, I may have bad breath all the time, but nobody's told me yet. So if I don't mind. I don't mind if you let me know. Okay, so what we're going to do is saute these onions and garlic. Onions and green pepper. And you can use any kind of pepper. I like the green pepper. Green pepper is usually cheaper.
That's true.
Right. I don't know. It's definitely a big price difference between a green pepper and a red pepper. So use whatever you have.
Why do you think that is? Are the reds more nutrients or?
The reds tend to have a little bit more nutrients in them, but I'm not sure why that requires a higher price.
Higher price, right.
And it could just be that the green peppers are grown more. They're
abundantly.
More, yeah. There's a lot more out there that are being grown as opposed to red, yellow, and orange peppers. But
right. Yeah, and I would imagine the demand of green is probably greater than red or yellow or orange.
Well, it's funny because a lot of people I've met really love red peppers and like just swear by red
Mm.
peppers and how good they are. Um, and so I would probably say they're more in high demand, and maybe that's why they have a higher price tag.
Mm.
Demand drives up the price, right?
Right. And I hear, see, bright colored peppers tend to be sweeter than green peppers because the sugar content increases as the pepper matures. Since sweeter peppers take longer to produce, they tend to cost more.
Yes. And with the green, I mean, with the red peppers and everything like that, those actually start off green. So that could be
Oh.
part of it too. So they're shorter, and then whereas the red peppers are growing a little bit longer, and then that is a cause for like more, it's a chance of more pests getting into the plant and to destroy it or that sort of thing. So maybe they lose a lot more of the red crop. But that is a very interesting question. I have to do some research on that one. Okay, so while these so my pan isn't hot enough yet. While this is heating up here, we're going to go ahead and put together the sauce for the sloppy joes. So we're just going to use a can of, this is just tomato sauce. So we're going to pour that in there. All right. And it sounds like my family's home. All right. And we're going to add in here is a little bit of apple cider vinegar. I'm using maple syrup instead of like a brown sugar. There's Worcestershire sauce.
Like, who knows how to Worcestershire? Like, yeah, that stuff.
Worcestershire sauce. Yeah. So, and a little bit of Dijon mustard. So we're going to pour that in here as well. And then we've got our spices that are going to go in there. So we've got a little bit of salt and pepper. There's some coriander, some chili powder, and some smoked paprika that's going in here as well. Now, if you don't have any coriander at home, you can substitute like cumin, or you could do something like curry, like a little bit of a curry powder.
So we just have Asia, who just checked in from South Carolina. Hi, Asia. Thank you for joining us here.
Hi, Asia.
So Erin is here whipping up some mushroom sloppy joes.
Yes, ma'am. All right, we're going to mix that together. Now, if you like a little spice, which we do in our household, I've got a chipotle pepper that I've chopped up. That it comes in a can with adobo sauce, and you can actually add in any kind of spice you want. So you can add in like some jalapeno peppers or serrano peppers into this mix here when you're sautéing.
So Erin, when I buy those adobe peppers, I don't usually use them all. Can you freeze those?
Yes, they freeze so well.
Okay.
So what you can do is just put them in either like a plastic baggie or something. That way you can kind of, or if you have them in a container, make sure you can spread them out a little bit.
Okay.
That way, when you're ready to go get like one more, you can just scoop out one. And the sauce itself doesn't freeze to like an ice block. It doesn't do that at all. So it's easier to get the pepper out of there.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I do like a little spice in my life, so we're gonna make
What's life without spice?
I know. You got spice, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got our sauce going, and we've got our peppers and onions. Those are sauteing here. So we want to just saute them until they get, slightly soft, slightly tender. Although I like it to have a little bit of a bite. So I don't want them to be like super soft. So you just do it according to your preference. And then what we're going to do is add in. Now, I just have to talk about garlic for a second. Because garlic can burn very easily. And when it does, it gets really bitter. So it's really important that when you're cooking with, when you're sauteing, especially if you're doing it at a higher heat, you always add the garlic in and cook it for maybe 30 seconds to a minute. And once you start smelling that garlic, then you know that it's about time to add something else. And usually the next thing that you add is something that's going to have a little bit more liquid to it.
So Erin, when my garlic turns brown, I've gone too far.
Yeah.
It's like that again, like this pot was too hot.
And it bugs me when I see recipes that will say like add the onions, peppers, and garlics and then cook for 5 minutes. And it's like, well, if you're doing that, you're going to have to be stirring this constantly. Because you don't want it to stick, you don't want it to burn, because it does change the flavor a little bit. All right, so these are getting a little softer here. And what I'm going to do before I add the garlic, I'm going to add the mushrooms. So the mushrooms release a lot of water.
A lot.
Yes. So you never would know that these were so full of water. So you want to cook them down so that they do release that, and then that you're able to just kind of get some of that water evaporated on here. But I'm adding like the chopped mushrooms that I did.
Now, did you chop those by hand or did you use a? Okay.
I chopped them by hand because I didn't want them to get too small. All right, and then we're gonna add in. Oh, there's a couple that did not get chopped. Look at those big ones. Take those out, and then we're gonna add in our taco meat. Our
ground meat.
You can see it's kind of the consistency of a ground meat. And I like the fact that this has the walnuts in it because now you're getting a little bit of healthy fat as well. And it provides that a little bit of bite. Again, the plant materials, like if you cook them a lot, they get mushy. So the walnuts kind of help to keep that from happening. All right.
And so, Erin, I've made like a recipe, a turkey. I think it was turkey meatloaf, and I used mushrooms in it for moisture.
Yeah.
So in some instances, that moisture you don't have to necessarily cook it all out but in some recipes you may want to use it to give it a little bit more moisture so it's not so dry.
Yes, absolutely. That's such a good point too. But it's something like if you're doing something like eggs, you definitely don't want to have a whole lot of moisture in there. Like if you're doing a frittata or like egg muffins or something like that, you do want to try to cook out some of that moisture so that you don't have a whole lot of wetness in the eggs.
Yes.
Whereas like I actually did a mushroom meatloaf before. So it was made with basically mushrooms, and you're grinding it up kind of the same way we did here. And you have to get all the moisture out.
So you cook it for longer? How do you get it out? Okay.
Yeah. You cook it. So when you're cooking them in general, you'll see that there is a release of moisture. And then as you cook them longer, they're just like almost this, like the pan is just wet on the bottom.
Yes. So
they just keep continuing to release that moisture out of there. So yeah, you're cooking them for a long time. And then you're putting them into a loaf pan and making a meatloaf, like a meatloaf. Oh, wow. And so there's some other components in it that are going to help bind it. But you have all of that moisture in there when you first start, it's not going to work. It's just going to be a crumbly mess.
So Erin, how is that smelling? Is it aromatic? Good. Like does it smell good?
It smells great. I wish you guys could smell it. I mean, I love mushrooms. So if you don't like mushrooms, you might not like it too much, but I love mushrooms. So it smells really good to me.
Yeah, I like mushrooms too. I think shiitake mushrooms are a little bit more meatier.
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
Have a bit more chew than but they're all good to me. I like them.
Yeah, and you can kind of play around with them. And like in this recipe, you could use the shiitake. Those are going to be a little bit more expensive.
Yes.
Whereas like the white button mushrooms and the crimini mushrooms are going to be a little bit less expensive.
Right. What would you say to someone who is like, that is fungus?
It is.
Like I see mushrooms growing in my yard. You're right.
It is a fungus. But the nice thing about this fungus is like you can't just necessarily eat any mushroom you see growing around. You might get very sick. So it's safer to just buy them at the grocery store, or if you're growing them yourselves, you know what type of mushrooms they are.
Right.
But very important that you don't just go out in the wild and start eating mushrooms.
Right. Like going to your front yard.
Yeah. But they do come with a lot of good benefits, though. One of the biggest ones is that they really help support your immune system. They actually help balance I was talking about the gut biome before. They actually help balance the bacteria in there. And they also provide a good source of vitamin D. And of course, with all of this plant material, fiber.
Yes.
Fiber is huge when it comes to balancing blood sugar levels, right?
Mm-hmm. And helping you stay full longer, even with the Change Your Lifestyle, Change Your Life program, CYL Square, we talk about that in our classes, about that fiber, getting those nutrients in. And, being regular is important too. And then fiber is good for that. So,
But that stuff's just sitting in there for a long time, because then that's when it starts, wreaking havoc on your system.
Right.
But yes, the fiber is going to be a very common theme, as well as antioxidants, because most plant materials have antioxidants in them. And there are so many different antioxidants, and they do so many different things. But the biggest thing is that they're going to help you help reduce, the free radicals. They're going to help kill off those free radicals that are going to do damage to your cells. So.
And for those who are tuned in, I'm not sure if you are familiar. I was just telling Erin about the CYL Squared program, and that's one of the signature programs with the Black Women's Health Imperative. And so it helps to prevent or delay the onset of type 2 diabetes. And so you're interested in that. It's a free to you program, a year long. You get a coach. Erin's a coach. I'm also a coach. And so it's a wonderful program. We teach you how to eat and all that jazz.
All that jazz. All right. So I poured in the sauce in here. We're going to let that, I just kind of let it come to a little bit of a boil, and I'm going to turn it down and let it simmer for about 15 minutes or so.
Now, Erin, did you put tomato paste in there? No.
I didn't put tomato paste in here.
Okay.
You can, and that'll kind of make it a little bit richer. I just used a little bit of tomato sauce.
Okay.
Actually, no, I didn't know. Yeah, I did put in tomato paste.
Oh, you did?
Yes, but and so the tomato paste helps with the thickening of it.
Right. Yeah, so it's not so runny.
Yes. And so when you're simmering this too, you want to make sure that you have it uncovered, because you want to make sure that steam that's coming out comes out, and that water goes back into the dish. So because you need to thicken up a bit.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And then once we're and that's perfect timing, because now the cauliflower.
Now, what does the cauliflower smell like? I have to be honest, Erin, when I have cut a cauliflower and my husband comes in the door, he's like, what in the world?
Yes, I know.
That?
Like cauliflower can be, very pungent sometimes.
Yes.
Broccoli probably is a little bit more, but the cauliflower and broccoli definitely tend to do that. And they, because we can't necessarily digest all the plant material in broccoli and cauliflower, we tend to get gassy from broccoli and cauliflower. Yeah. So, it's just part of what, they're made of, and they have sulfur in them. So the sulfur is what's kind of helping to give that kind of gassy smell. Per se. All right. So I have a couple different sauces here, and I actually made them. So I've got a buffalo sauce here, and usually buffalo sauce is vinegar, hot sauce, and butter. I mean, it's pretty simple. Maybe a little bit of spices like garlic, salt and pepper, or something like that. But it's very basic. But instead of using butter, I use olive oil. So we're kind of getting rid of the saturated fat and replacing it with a healthier fat. And then this is a barbecue sauce. Barbecue sauce is really simple and easy to make too. And actually, I was pretty impressed at how good this was. So just saute like just a little bit of onion and garlic, and then you add in pretty much a lot of things that you probably already have in your cabinet. Now you may not have molasses in your cabinet, so I did add a little bit of that, but I added, like, instead of using brown sugar, I added some maple syrup.
Now, could you use maple syrup in place of the molasses as well?
You could. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you could even play around. I've done one before with dates. So you can even play around
Oh,
with that. The dates tend to have a little bit of a molasses flavor to them as well.
gotcha. Because I bought molasses once. I used it for one thing, and the container is still in the pantry,
Yeah.
and I
I
probably
know.
should get rid of it.
Don't you hate that? It's like, okay, why did I buy this for just this one recipe?
Right.
And that's when you start looking for recipes with molasses in it. You know what I mean? Like, if you want,
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
I mean, just
Mhm.
you could do a Google search for just molasses, recipes with molasses in them. And you're never going to use a whole lot of the molasses because it's kind of it has a very distinct taste, and
Yes.
it's not necessarily sweet. But it is part of the sugar cane. I mean, it's a natural part of
Oh,
the sugar cane. So what happens is when they refine sugar, molasses is what is kind of the byproduct of that. And so you end up with the white refined sugar with no nutrients. The molasses actually has a lot of nutrients in it. So you can get iron and magnesium from molasses. I think there's a few more things in there that aren't coming to mind right now, but molasses is not, as bad as the refined sugar is going to be.
gotcha.
You know.
Now, Erin, how can I get copies of the recipes?
So we will have them posted in our app when we post this video in there. So if you want to download the BWHI app, you can, and join the Healthy Eating with Dish Diva community, and you will see that in there, and you'll see the recipes in there. Otherwise, you can always shoot me an email, or if you sign up for the Eventbrite, we'll have access to your email. We can send the recipes out then. If you did not, and you just kind of stumbled upon us right now, I would say just shoot me an email, and I'll make sure you get all the recipes. And my email address is ETAYLOR, so E Taylor at bwhi.org. All right. So, all right. So I've got the barbecue sauce on this one here. And we're going to put a little bit of the buffalo sauce on the other half. So buffalo sauce isn't always everybody's favorite, but I like it because it's got a little kick to it. Although with this barbecue sauce I made, I got a little kick to it as well. I put a little bit of cayenne pepper in there. So we're going to douse them in the sauce. And you can kind of see let me show you one of these up close. Let me get it in the right angle. So you can kind of see there, like the batter on there just kind of wraps around the cauliflower, and you'll get a little crispiness from that. And once we put it back in the oven, it'll crisp up a little bit more as well. All right, so boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom.
Now, Erin, will your son eat these?
I'll see about the cauliflower. A little bit of a picky phase.
Uh-huh.
But he's been doing better. He did eat the mushroom sloppy joes though.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives me hope, and probably some of the other moms out there of toddlers.
Yeah, you just have to keep trying things with them. I mean, that's the key, is like you can't, and they're going to be looking at what you're eating. So if you're not eating really healthy and then you expect them to eat it, they're kind of like, I don't think so, Mom.
Right. Give me those puffs.
Right. You're over here eating Doritos. I want to sit down and eat Doritos with you. How about that? So, you have to be mindful of those kind of things, but you also want to make sure that you are just offering things to them, periodically. So when you try new recipes or get them involved in the kitchen, I think that's one of the best ways to kind of get them trying new things, because they're seeing it in its raw form, a pepper or something. And I don't know how many times my son has come in here and he's like, I want that, just because he knows it's food. He doesn't know what it is. He just wants it. I'm like, okay. And I'll give him slices of the pepper that I'm cutting up. And so then he's sitting over here, while I'm cooking, eating peppers and radishes. And so, I mean,
Oh, wow.
it really is about exposing them to that. Okay. All right. So we've got our cauliflower in here for 15 more minutes. We've got our sloppy joes simmering a little bit here. The next thing we're going to work on is our queso dip. So this is an eggplant queso. So again, we're kind of ditching the saturated fat from the dairy, and we're doing more plant-based so that we can get more of those nutrients in there. Okay. All right. So all of those things, this is a pretty simple recipe because it's all just going into the blender. Let's move this back over. All right. So we've got the base of it is going to be the eggplant, but we've also got a little bit of cashews in here as well. So the cashews are going to provide, again, some healthy fats in there. And so these are unsaturated fats as opposed to saturated fats, all right? So eggplant goes in. And so what I did with this eggplant is first I sliced it, and then I sprinkled some salt on it. And what that does is it actually helps draw out some of the moisture and the bitterness from eggplant. Because, I mean, I don't know about you, Tiffany. Do you cook a lot with eggplant?
I don't.
Yeah. I just don't even know what to do with it.
I know. And I see people do like eggplant lasagna, but I just think that'll be soggy.
Yeah. And so it has a really mushy texture.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've had it like when I've eaten out and had like a Thai curry where they put it in, kind of like, okay, it's okay. But it's like this big mushy thing. So I'm always trying to find ways to make it where I enjoy it a little bit more. And one of my favorites is baba ganoush, which is a roasted eggplant dip. It's kind of a Mediterranean thing. It's very similar to hummus, but it's made with eggplants instead of like the base being chickpeas.
Oh, wow. I've never heard of that.
It's so good. And we have a place here in Columbus that has really good, really, really good baba ganoush. But after I sprinkled them with the salt and I let them sit for about 10 minutes, you'll actually see like the water kind of pooling up on them. Then you rinse them to just kind of get some of that saltiness out of it, and then you pat them dry and then drizzle with olive oil and then put them in the oven about 5 minutes on each side. And that's on the recipe too, but just wanted to let you guys know what the process was. So now it's just kind of this, you can see it's really soft and mushy in here. So it makes it's great for blending.
Right. Now, Erin, did you peel it?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes. And when I took it out of the oven, I wrapped it in a foil, kind of the same way if you've ever fire roasted like a bell pepper. You put it in foil and kind of let the steam do its job. And then when you take it off, you're able to just peel off the skin very easily.
Gotcha. Okay.
Cashews. So I soaked these overnight, which is an important step if you don't have a high-speed blender. You definitely want to soak them at least for 24 hours so that they're good and soft, so they'll blend well with this recipe.
And I just wanted to share like an interesting fact that I learned today from Erin is that cashews are technically a seed. Is that what we came to, and not a nut? But we were trying to figure this whole thing out. So
And so all nuts are seeds. But not all seeds are nuts. It's one of those weird classification things that you
have to pause and think about, like, how does this go? But yeah.
And so like one of the difference between seeds and nuts too is that the seeds tend to have a protective layer on them, and because they have to be able to survive so that they can plant a new flower or plant, and what ends up happening is when we eat the seeds, we actually get some benefits from that protection that they have on there. So there's been some evidence showing that some of those protective properties help protect against like cancer cells and things of that nature. So pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing that food really is medicine.
It really is. And that's why it's so important too to get a variety of food because, like I said, most of these plant materials are going to have antioxidants in them, but all the antioxidants kind of behave differently and do different things in our bodies. So it's really important that we get a variety of those antioxidants. So protection from environmental factors. They help with heart health. They help prevent cancer. All of those things.
Now, what was that juice you put in there? That was
this is sliced. It's pickled jalapenos.
Oh, okay.
A little bit, like I said, it's spice. You gotta have some spice in your life, right?
Yes.
And then these are some green chilies. They're mild though, but these are going to help give a little bit of flavor as well. So
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
What would you do with the rest of those pickled jalapenos? Would you freeze them, or would you?
The nice thing is that they're pickled, so they're probably going to stay. They can stay in the refrigerator for quite a while. That pickling just kind of helps preserve them because it's a little bit of like vinegar and salts that are in there that'll help preserve it.
Gotcha.
But I was looking for a 4-ounce can of those because this can I have is pretty large. I didn't want one that big, but so that's what I was stuck with. But yeah, try to get a smaller can if you can, and it's optional. You don't have to even put in there. You can put fresh jalapenos in here, and thing, So I did the chilies. We got 4 garlic cloves going in here, and then let's see, we're gonna do a little bit of lemon juice. All right. And then we've got, we're going to put a little bit of cornstarch in here, as well as nutritional yeast, cumin, salt, and a touch of turmeric to give it a little bit of color. Now, the cornstarch is going to help thicken this because we don't want it to be like super runny or anything like that. We want it to be a thick sauce. And the nutritional yeast is one of those things that we use, that vegans will use to give you that flavor of cheese. Okay. And it's a inactive yeast, but it does have like this kind of saltiness that's very similar to cheese.
Where can I find nutritional yeast?
At the grocery store. Yeah.
Would it be with the cheese?
No, it's going to probably be in like the spice aisle.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll show you mine that I have here. Sorry, I'd step off camera for just a second. But this is, make sure you guys see that.
The Bragg's nutrition.
Yeah, so that's just a brand. I've also seen it like at Big Lots. I've gotten some at Big Lots before. Big Lots is like my go-to for some of these like more I don't know. They like things always just end up there that I need, like chia seeds and.
Yeah, I tell people don't sleep on Big Lots.
No, it's cheaper.
Yes.
I love some Big Lots. I'm gonna put in some chickpeas in here. This is about a 1/4 cup of chickpeas, and the chickpeas will just help give you a little bit of protein. We got some protein in here now, and it helps smooth out the texture as well. And then what I have in here, this is just a little bit of about a 1/2 cup of almond milk and a 1/2 cup of vegetable broth. So we're going to put that in there, and then we are going to blend. So sorry for the loud noise because this is going to be loud. And again, you don't need a high-speed mixer for this. And if it's a little bit chunky, that's okay. I like a little chunky. Little texture is not a bad thing. So we're going to turn this on and blend. Now we have this really nice creamy texture in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually thicken it up a bit. And it's kind of got the color of queso. Queso is usually kind of whitish, right? But the turmeric that I put in there gives it a little bit of a hint of color.
I love turmeric. I put it on my boiled eggs. It's so good.
But you know what? And it's one of those things that you can just easily add into a recipe. And whether you're looking for the flavor or not, because it's so healthy for you. It really is big in reducing inflammation. But you do have to make sure, like, you're either pairing it with, you need some healthy fat in there or some pepper, black pepper. in order to absorb the nutrients from it. So you want to make sure you always have that when you are working with the turmeric. All right, so we got this going here. We've got this one here. So this is going to thicken up a little bit as it starts to heat. So you can see it's still a little, you can see kind of it runs, it drips. So we're going to look at thickening that up just a little bit. All right.
And just the heat is going to thicken it up, or like the reduction, just letting it go?
A little bit of both. I mean, and you have the cornstarch in there. So what cornstarch does is like when when you can use cornstarch a lot in like chilies or soups. So it kind of has the same effect of, I don't know. I kind of think of like okra, maybe not quite as like okra tends to be a little bit more slimy.
Yeah,
I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it thickens. You can see like it'll thicken up a soup. So the cornstarch kind of does the same thing, but it needs that heat to really activate it. And so once the heat it goes onto it, you'll start to see it thicken up a bit. So one thing you want to do though, always, always, always when you're cooking, is taste your food. Oh, that's yummy.
I always, I like to watch. I like watching Food Network, like the cooking channel, and it's always like, I want some. All of us here watching, like, I want to taste it.
It's really good, and it's got a lot of flavor because you got that pickled jalapeno juice in there, and it's not really spicy, but you also have those green chilies in there, which kind of just give it a little bit more flavor. So you're not just tasting like some bland cashews with some nutritional yeast, like that's trying to make you think you're eating cheese. So this, you don't even have to tell people it's queso. Just tell them you made a dip.
Okay, and then I'll say how my husband closed his ears. I want to make this dip for the people.
It's just dip, baby. Just try it. It's just dip. It's okay. All right, we got, we're getting a little like crispy. So we've got our cauliflower which is just about ready to come out. And like I said, those sauces that I made, they were actually really good. And I'll show you guys on the plate too, but you can also add some like chicken on the plate. You can, you can do it up. You can make it so that it's not just all plant material. But, when you're going into, your gathering, you have something to eat. So if you're on this health journey, you have something to eat while you're there. That's not going to really take you away from your health goals, right? I mean, I think that's the important thing is I've learned is like, I always have to bring the healthy stuff.
Right.
And everybody knows that. And I don't know how many people appreciate in the end of the day, end up thanking me and appreciating me for bringing a salad.
Right.
The gathering that was like wings and pizza and, and chips and, these dips and, just and cakes and cookies and all of these things. And it's like, oh my God, thank God there was a salad. Right. So don't ever sleep on the fact that, people are going to like hate what you're bringing them.
Yeah. And I think it mixes it up, adds a little spice instead of your generic, boring veggie tray. Like everybody, you pick that up at the grocery store and it's just like the thing nobody touches. But to have like some hot dishes or, something that's filling and hot and it's just, not boring. So,
yes. Yeah. And I mean, like I said, like there will be people that will appreciate it, I'm sure. Even if it's just you, that's fine.
Right. I'll just be over here snatched and cute by myself. It's okay.
Right. But I think that's the key though, is like you don't really tell people what you're doing. You just kind of like, here, just put it there and then let them taste it.
Right.
And then they might be like, oh, what's that? What is this? And so you might have started a new trend.
Exactly.
All right. So we've got our everything going. So those are the 3 recipes that I was going to focus on today. So I'm going to plate them and show you guys a little bit of how to like present these and that sort of thing here. And I do have a couple some bonuses for you guys. Okay. So first, since we've got our cauliflower here.
Erin, what was that little lid? Is that a little silicone lid you just put on top of your pickled jalapenos?
It's called a food hugger.
Oh, food hugger. Tell me more. I like that.
Yeah, so it comes in like a bunch of different sizes, and you just kind of stick them in each other. I don't have the other ones here because they're, hugging food in the refrigerator right now.
I need one of those. I cannot tell you how many tomato paste containers have gone back.
Really?
Because you only need like 1 teaspoon, and to me, the tube
that makes me crazy.
Tube, but it's like nothing in it, and it costs more.
Crazy, yes, I know, and I usually end up getting the tubes because of that fact, though, because I end up wasting.
Yeah, me too.
You end up wasting it. It's a food hugger.
Oh, did you get it on like Amazon or
probably
food hugger?
And so, but the challenge with this one is that there's one of each size that is in here. This is the bigger size. So the one that's kind of the standard size where most cans are like this size, there's only one. So
you can't open more than 1 can.
Yeah. So you may have to at this point now, because I've had them for years, at this point now, they may have them where you can just buy one size.
I know Lisa is saying she got hers from Amazon. Amazon has everything.
Everything. Anything you need, go to Amazon. This is not a commercial for Amazon.
You're right. Not at all.
Black women's health imperative.
Hi, Sheila. Sheila just joined us from Charlotte, North Carolina. Thank you for joining us. Our Dish Diva Erin is in the kitchen plating wings, cauliflower wings. We have some buffalo and barbecue flavored. Is that right, Erin?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's all like the buffalo and barbecue were made by me.
Our Dish Diva.
Yeah, so it's a great way to just kind of be able to be in control of, a lot of those sauces that you're going to find out in the store are not going to be low in sugar. They're not going to be low in sodium. So when you make them at home, you're in control of all of that, which is awesome. And you can make it flavored however you want. You can get creative with it. All right. So first dish I have here. So we've got wings, right? So with wings, you typically have them with like celery and lettuce. And I put a little bit of blue cheese on top of that as well.
Erin, that looks delicious. Like that looks great. Tasty.
So let's see.
Sheila said she's excited. This is just what she needs. Oh, and now you just
And there's a little crisp on there, but the cauliflower is soft. We made it up. We made it on high heat. So they reduced. Sorry, trying to talk with my mouth full. So with the high heat, they were able to soften up, and like a lot of the moisture comes out a little bit. And then with that batter on top and the sauce, you get that crispiness as well. Look at that.
It looks really good.
I mean,
now we all wish we lived next door to you. It's like the production crew, once it's over, it's like, okay, now we can all eat.
Exactly. Like, I wish you guys were here because it's like I'm going to have all this food. I have a vegan friend, so I'll be like, hey, I got some cauliflower. Although there's plenty here. I will eat this. I will eat the cauliflower for sure. But yeah, definitely the queso. I will need somebody to take some of that. So we've got this warming up here. It's getting a little bit thicker. We'll let it go for a few more minutes.
Yeah, I can see that it's gotten thicker from when you took it out of the blender.
Yep. So let me move this over here so you guys can see me putting this stuff together. One thing about having a small kitchen is like you gotta work it out.
You do?
Definitely gotta work it out. Okay. So we've got our sloppy Joe mix here. Now, I told you guys I was gonna give you a little secret at the end. You know, with the sloppy Joe mix, it does look like a sloppy Joe mix for sure. Let me see, where are my spoons? I'm going to taste this. Like I said, always want to taste your food. So you guys are just coming here to see me eat, right?
No, not really, but I mean, if we have to, because we're all jealous. I'm like, I want some without the work of having to do it myself.
Right. I mean, I wish you guys were here. I wish you guys would feed you all.
Now, Sheila is asking, have you heard of cauli steaks? Cauliflower steaks?
Yeah.
Have you made those?
I haven't made those, but I mean, it's super simple. You are slicing, like you have the whole cauliflower, and instead of chopping it up into florets, you're just kind of slicing it from top to bottom, from head to stem. And then you can dress it up with any kind of flavor that you want on there. And if you're thinking steak, like the Worcestershire sauce, it's a good one to add, because that's something that you would find in like steak sauce. So that's a good one to kind of give it that same kind of flavor. But it really is as simple as like what we did here. You're kind of basing it with some of that flavoring component. You're putting it into the oven, cooking it at a pretty high heat. And when you bring it out, you just have this kind of big piece of cauliflower, and you can just eat it like a steak. Now, again, it's not going to taste like a steak, but it will just... for people who want to concentrate on those vegetables, it's a great way to do that.
Now we have a question. What bread will you, Sheila is asking, what bread will you use with the sloppy joes?
Oh, we're getting to that, Sheila.
She's just in time. And then for anybody who joined in late after, Erin made the mushroom sloppy joes. The sloppy joes are made out of mushrooms.
Yes. So we've got some mushrooms, we've got onions, green pepper, some garlic, and then we also blended up some walnuts in there. So we've got some healthy fat in there as well. So yeah, very tasty. It tastes really good, but I'm going to show you guys a little secret just in case you have some meat eaters in your house. So if you want to stay completely vegan, you can just take it off of here, and you can, or completely 100% plant-based, you can stop right here. If you have meat eater in the house, like I do, so I'm with you, Tiffany.
I'm with you.
Where's the meat?
If it's not a meat, it's not a meal.
So what I have here is a little bit of cooked ground chicken. You can do ground chicken, ground turkey. Of course, ground turkey is going to be a little bit lower in fat. I like ground chicken sometimes when I'm doing loose meat as opposed to turkey. So we're going to just put a little bit of this ground chicken. That's about a half a pound. You can do a little bit less, a little bit more if you want to. But just remember, now you have all these mushrooms in here. You have the garlic in here. You have those peppers and the onions. You've got all of these, and you've got the spices in here. You've got all of these things in here that are going to give you some nutrients, right? And then a little bit of meat. So we're going to just blend this in here. And it will thicken up a little bit because we added in that ground meat. So my husband ate these the other day, and he was like, he kept going back for more. And then he went and got some tortilla chips and ate the sloppy joe mix with the tortilla chips after he ate a sloppy joe.
Oh, like little nachos.
So he was happy. All right, so let's go ahead and plate this. Now, I was looking for some whole wheat slider buns, and I could not find them. But I would recommend slider. Like, I'm doing this as sliders because, when we're going to, a game celebration, people aren't going to be eating a whole big sandwich. They're going to be getting a lot of small stuff, right? For the most part. So I like to do the sliders. So the sliders here are very tiny. It also kind of helps with portion control, right? But when you're doing this with a lot of vegetables, you don't have to worry about portion control. You can eat those vegetables, okay? Eat those vegetables. Because guess what? You're going to be full really fast because of all that fiber. All right. So what we're going to do, I guess I shouldn't hold this in my hand because it's sloppy. It's a sloppy Joe. So we're going to put a little bit on here on each of these. And then what I like to do, because I kind of like having opposing flavors, I made a vinegar slaw. Okay, so it's vinegar. I mean, it's really simple. Vinegar, salt and pepper, a little bit of olive oil, some honey, and then I use some like celery seeds. And then what you're going to do, because of that pungent vinegar base, it makes it really good. You've got that kind of bitter with that there. So I like to put that over top of there. And now you've got a nice little slider. Oops, I did that one upside down. That's all right. Ready to go, ready to eat. So there you go.
That looks amazing.
And
now,
then
did you chop the vegetables for the slaw, or did you use like a coleslaw mix?
So I cheated. I mean, you can chop it, but and what I'll do is I usually will buy a coleslaw mix.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the red cabbage. I love the way the red cabbage looks on the plate, like in the slaw. So I will chop up. I got a really small red cabbage and chop that up and then put it with the bag that I got.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
It's so much easier because if you're like doing these tiny little slices,
yeah.
Unless you have like a food processor, the food processor will help you slice. But again, buying the bag, it just makes it a little bit easier, especially when you're like pressed for time.
Yeah.
This is the sloppy Joe. Did you want me to eat this too? It's a little.
If you have to.
I don't.
Aisha says this looks great. It really does.
Well, we had a volunteer to taste. This is my husband Colby.
I'm in the camera. Okay, on the side.
Hi, Colby.
Hello to whomever I'm speaking with. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing well.
Here, so he's going to try this slider.
Thank you for asking. Yes, and we want your honest opinion.
It's good.
Good.
Crunch to it.
Okay.
Crunch with the salt, cabbage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why I like putting the coleslaw in there too, because then it gives
some of the cold with it.
A little bit cold and hot balance, and then you got the crunchiness,
the textures.
Yep. Okay, he's taking that one to go.
Now everybody wants to be Colby. Right?
I know.
Thank you.
That's easy. I got somebody to eat it. Okay, so we're gonna move on to our queso. All right. So what I did with the queso.
I need a fork.
Oh yeah, I can give you a fork. Oh, I got one.
Perfect. Thank you.
Enjoy. All right. So with the queso. Queso, instead of doing like chips, I'm more about doing like this is actually naan, but it's a whole grain naan. I love naan bread, and it's very simple ingredients when you get naan bread, but you can do pita bread as well. And what I'm going to do is just pour this in here.
Oh, look at that. Mm-hmm. So creamy.
Now, if you wanted it a little bit like creamier, thicker, you can always use like a coconut milk. A canned coconut milk would blend really well into this because it has a lot of fat in it. But if you're looking to reduce those fat calories, you've already got the cashews in there. So just kind of be mindful of that. But play around with it. I used almond milk, which is a lot thinner. But the coconut milk would have just kind of given it a little bit more of a richness.
Mm-hmm. And I also think too that cashew milk, is a little bit thicker than almond.
Yeah, or even like flax milk,
thicker.
And then you're getting like some of those omega-3s and things like that in there as well.
Right.
And fiber, more fiber. All right. And so we've got our queso here. What you can do is I've got some tomatoes with green chilies, like canned tomatoes with green chilies. We're going to put that on top. And you can either put it on top as a garnish or you can blend it in there. And then we've also I sliced up some of those pickled jalapenos and we'll put those on top. All right. So now you've got, oh, let me go this way. Now you've got this nice plate of queso.
Oh, that looks so good.
Okay, I will eat this because I want to see what this tastes like with the bread. Make sure I'm in the camera. So you can see here, it's kind of,
It's
very
steamy.
hot.
Yeah, it's hot.
Make sure I don't burn myself.
Right, you don't need that. You burn yourself and like your mouth be raw. Like, It does. It looks like real queso.
And there's so much flavor in there. And again, you just tell people it's a warm dip. Now, I would suggest if you're taking this somewhere, or even if you're serving it in your house, like leave it on the stovetop, like on low, or if you have one of those little
Hot pot.
little crock pots that can just keep like sauces warm. I would suggest putting that in there. Because it's plant-based, like when it starts to cool off, it sort of gets this, it kind of might get a little discolored or it looks a little dried out on top. So just be mindful of that. You want to make sure it looks appealing to people who are a little suspect of what you're doing. That's always important. Okay. All right, guys. So we have our queso. And again, you could also do this with like veggies. You don't necessarily have to have bread or chips. You could plate that with some veggies there. So the last thing I'm going to show you guys is just, I think of the big game. I think of going to like tailgating parties and things like that. I think about nachos. So what I've done was I've made a bit of a pita nacho. Now, the reason why I'm not using like tortilla chips is because corn is definitely a little higher on the glycemic index. So I'm always a little bit mindful about corn. And again, when you're doing like something like pita, you're doing it at home. Even if you make corn tortillas at home, make them into chips, you're in a little bit more control on what goes on them, how much salt, oil, that sort of thing. So I found these, it's just pita bread, the pita rounds, like those pita pockets. And it has flax, oat bran, and whole wheat in it. So lots of things in there. And then what I did was I cut them up into triangles and then baked them in the oven. So you can bake them in the oven like on low for like 300 for about 45 minutes, or you could do like I did and put them on like 400 for about 10 minutes, maybe a little bit.
And they sound crunchy.
Yeah, I was like, this is good. And they're really good. I mean, they're really nice and crispy. So basically, we're going to build some nachos, and we can use all of this stuff that we just made.
Yeah.
So, for instance, we can put a little bit of this. Make sure I don't spill everything. So you've got your meat, right? So whether it's just all mushrooms or it has chicken in it, you've got your meat. You've got your queso. But I think we'll wait for that. We'll put that on the top. So chickpeas, I have some chickpeas here. We can toss a few of those in there. And if you want to get even fancier, you can roast the chickpeas.
So you just drain those and rinse them just from a can?
They're from the can. I just rinse them. And like if you wanted to roast them, you can put a little flavoring on them and put them in high heat on a baking sheet and cook those for a few minutes. I have banana peppers because those are my favorite. They're not spicy, but they give a little bit of a pungent flavor. And Kalamata olives. So depending on where you want to go with this, so you can go Mediterranean because, we obviously have pita chips, which are a little bit more of a Mediterranean feel. Or you could do it however you want. The nice thing about doing this is that now you can be as creative as you want to be. So we've got some green onions. You could do a little bit of like parsley on there. So you've got some leafy greens. And then this is where you can add in some dairy. I have goat cheese, which is because I love goat cheese. And you don't have to sprinkle in a whole lot, right? You only need to do just a little bit. You could do feta as well. You could do Parmesan. I like the softer cheeses though when I'm dealing with a nacho. And then we've got our queso. So we can just kind of shift this around. And obviously you can do this any way you want. If you wanted to put the queso on the side, you could, so people could just drizzle theirs once they get their nachos so that they don't get soggy. There you go. I mean, you've got this beautiful plate of nachos. And of course, this is something that you'll want to serve immediately.
Yeah.
You don't want them to get soggy. You want to serve them immediately, and you want to make sure that drop it on you guys. But you can see here, and like really crunchy. So I will eat one of these for you guys.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna have to go find these pita pockets and make some chips.
And such good flavor on here, you know? You've got such a variety of things on here, and it doesn't, you know, it's going to give you a lot more vegetables on here. You're getting a lot more nutrients. You're getting a lot more fiber. And you're not going to necessarily have all of the saturated fat or things that are going to raise your blood sugar.
Right. Yeah. Or, you know, those chips that just keep you coming back for more. Those lemon lime tortillas, like they make those in a factory where you cannot just eat one.
Oh my gosh, those lime chips. I know.
Yes. I'm like, yes.
All right. So that was the bonus right there because I was able to use all of this stuff here. Now, you could throw some cauliflower on there too if you wanted to. You know, on top of here, the buffalo cauliflower, barbecue cauliflower. Not necessary, but these are really, really good. Lots of good flavor in there. I have one more thing because if you're going to a party, there's always going to be sweets there, right?
Yes.
And you're always going to be tempted by the sweets. So we might as well make and bring your own. So what I have here is a plate of brownies. But not only are these just brownies, they're black bean brownies. Okay, I'm sure you guys have heard of these before. They're fantastic. I mean, you can, so realistically, you can replace flour, like a 1 cup of flour with 1 cup of black beans.
Really?
Yes. So you guys will have this recipe as well. They're really good. And I'm afraid to eat these on camera because I'm gonna have chocolate all
in your teeth. And I'll be the friend like Erin.
But the thing about these brownies though is that they're very rich, so you're not even gonna want to eat very many of them. And then you have the protein, you have fiber, you've got antioxidants now. Like you've got more nutrients in a brownie than you ever would have thought you would. So you don't have as many things in here that are going to raise your blood sugar. They're actually going to help balance your blood sugar levels because you are still putting sugar in here. However, I suggest using like a coconut sugar or raw sugar, something that still has nutrients in it, so that you are like able to get something out of this food as opposed to it being empty calories, because that's usually what sweets are.
Right.
Yeah. Right. You know, everything's refined. There's no nutrients, but you've got eggs in here, so you got some protein, but you've also have some beans as well. And then the chocolate chips that I usually go to are Lily's. If you guys can see those. This is a brand called Lily's. They actually sweeten all of their chocolates with stevia. And then I actually was in Costco the other day, and I just saw some other brand that was there that had a big bag of chocolate chips that was sweetened with stevia. I was like, oh, okay. So the world is getting better as far as finding products that are going to be a little less harmful to us. Right. So looking for something like this, you'll definitely want to go to. But if nothing less, go for dark chocolate chips if you're going to put dark chocolate chips in at all. Because the dark chocolate is where you're going to get more of the nutrients as well, as opposed to like the milk chocolates. And you have a lot of good things that happen when you eat chocolate. You know, magnesium, very high in magnesium. They also are great antioxidants, have great amount of antioxidants, but only if you're getting the dark chocolate. The white chocolates, those are all just cocoa butter. And the milk chocolates have a lot more sugar and milk in there. But that is
That looks awesome. And I just wanted to share too, for those who joined late, you can email Erin you can email Erin for the recipes, or you can download the BWHI app for the recipes. Erin, will you share your email address again?
Yes. My email address is etaylor@bwhi.org. That's E as in Aaron, T as in Tom, AYLOR@bwhi.org. And if you shoot me an email, I will make sure you get a copy of all of these recipes, so that you guys have some things to hold on to when you're going to these gatherings, because it's not just going to be for this big game coming up. We're going to have some other playoffs coming up soon. And it's just like this never ending cycle, right?
Right.
Basketball, baseball, basketball, football, baseball, basketball, football. So whatever you're in, hockey, like something there. If you like hockey, like there's always something out there to be celebrating. And there's always these gatherings to go to, whether it's cookout, or you're going to a birthday party or shower, some potluck at work. Try out some of these recipes on other people, and just, like I said, don't always tell them what's going on, unless, somebody that has a nut allergy. You may want to tell them that, there's walnuts in this.
Oh, yeah. That's
what I mean? So mindful of that kind of thing. And there's cashews in the queso. But, if it's potluck kind of thing, put a sign on there just to say there's nuts. But, you don't have to go to these things and just eat horribly the whole time. There is hope. And like I said, with all of this stuff here, you don't necessarily have to just be plant-based. You can add some meat in there and and at least you're getting more of the plant material with the chicken. Because usually when people have wings, there's never a vegetable. There's like wings, there's never a vegetable.
Wait, aren't French fries potatoes are a vegetable? I know it.
Those French fries that contain no nutrients whatsoever.
Right.
It's horrible oils. So yes, no, we don't do that. And just remember, the word plant-based can mean a lot of things, just like all natural, that just kind of gets thrown around a lot. But when you're talking about plant-based, it doesn't mean that you're a vegan or even a vegetarian, but it means that you're focusing on plant material. And I know, Tiffany, you mentioned to me at one point, how like you from the South, and so you focus on meat and then come up with the vegetables. So I challenge you guys to rethink that, to change the way you're thinking, and focus on the vegetables, and then add some meat to it, and see how that works out. I guarantee you're going to be a little bit healthier for it.
Yeah. I mean, I started by saying, okay, Erin, you're going to have to convince me. You're going to have to do some work here. I think I'm there. I think you got me there. And hopefully some of the other people who are also watching and joining us today, like you gave us some ideas, thinking outside of the box. I have to say that, all of these things. And I'm definitely excited to try them.
Okay, well, good. I'm hoping that some of the people that are watching are feeling the same way. But, if you guys have any other questions, please let me know. You can ask them on the site while you're watching right now, or you can email me later. But I will definitely be happy to send you out some recipes, and I want to hear how you guys are doing. Like, I want to hear how successful it was for you to make these recipes, and how your family and friends, responded to it.
Right. And also, before we go, Erin, we have our own Dish Diva here, works through the Black Women's Health Imperative. And I mentioned earlier about the Change Your Lifestyle, Change Your Life program, CYL squared. And so if you want more information about that program, go to www.bwhi.org/CYL2. And I'll have that put in the comments too.
Awesome. Yes, we look forward to hearing from you guys, and we look forward to having you become part of our program.
Yeah, Aisha said, this was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that, guys. And if you ever have any suggestions on things that you want to see, let me know. Any other questions from the crowd? No?
No, I don't see any here.
All right. Well, then I really appreciate you guys joining me today in my small but mighty kitchen. And I hope to see you again really soon. And until then, let's get cooking, y'all.